G'day guys, welcome back to a new episode of the Boundary Riders podcast, episode 85 I believe, I'm pretty sure that's correct. But today we're all about the trade news, the updates, everything that you guys need to know, recording this on a Monday. But of course, got so much stuff to happen throughout today when we're releasing this and over the week as well. So let's roll the intro and get straight into it. And then Rankin from the pocket, don't tell me, Isaac Rankin!
Yeah.
He's just got the license for a brothel.
Well, I think Gather Round's going to be more than just AFL this next season.
It's at the handle at the back, Nick Dacos to get the pies home! He's done it! So as always, my brother is joining me, and what a boring trade period this has been so far. We've seen on the Monday, speaking of, I think there's only been 2 players traded, and then a couple of free agency ones done as well.
Yeah, do you think it's the worst trade period in a long time?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's happy to say that, but I mean, no one's going to remember no one ever remembers the first 3 days of every 5 days of every trade period. They remember what happened at the end of it.
Yeah, but even with free agency and all that, it's like there'll be normally a few more moves. This whole period has been really, really slow.
I think what's happened is all the free agency ones got done obviously on the day one.
Yeah.
And then nothing has happened.
Yeah.
And then now we're all just waiting because it's on Monday afternoon. Trade period finishes Wednesday night. So I think every single club is like saying, we need to hold. We need to hold. We need to hold. And then eventually one will ease off.
It will be the domino effect that once one falls, the rest will go. But
yeah.
I think it's funny that at the moment on a Monday, it's just all picks and shit. And it's like, once the trade period's actually over, the trades, those picks can be traded all the way up to draft night. So
yeah, I don't get. They shouldn't even be trading picks. Who gives a fuck?
Well,
basically, the biggest talking point of the trade period so far is pick 14 being traded.
Yeah, I know.
If pick 14 is the biggest fucking news story of the AFL trade period 2024, it's been boring.
Whoever has that pick, the player has got to be really good then, because if
that player better be fucking the next Chris Judd.
Yeah,
I swear to God.
Yeah, so it's the Gold Coast that held that pick at the moment, which will probably end up being probably about 18.
No, Carlton have that pick 14.
Sorry, yeah. So Carlton have that pick, which will probably be ending up being about 17, 18, 19 because of father-sons and shit.
But that also depends if they hold it. I mean, they could use it on Houston.
Yeah.
So we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like the next few days, like if you've missed if you've been in a coma for the last 2 weeks and now you're waking up, you haven't missed much.
Yeah. Well,
but
it's funny.
It's something we'll have. I think the next few days will be crazy.
Yeah.
How it's going to happen.
It's just funny that at the moment, to be honest, no one even knows who's picked number 1. Like last year, everyone knew it was going to be Harley Reid. The year before that, it was pretty obvious it was up to 2 or 3. Now it's to like whoever.
But I think it will be Levi Ashcroft. But I think it would be him. Who cares
though? We all know where he's going.
Yeah, it would be him,
Yeah.
but it's not going to be. Well, I mean, it could be. I mean, we saw Ugelhagen, in 2020, wherever it was. He went for pick 1, and he was obviously picked up by the Crows. But it will be interesting to see. That's what the Lions are obviously trying to do now, trying to get their trade picks ready to go, so then they can inevitably pick like Levi Ashcroft if he does go pick 1, and then have enough as well for his name Marshall, I think it is.
Something Marshall.
Yeah, I think it's Sam Marshall or something. That's another father-son they're looking for. But first of all, let's take a look at the trades that have been done, the moves that have been done as of Monday afternoon, and then we'll get into a couple of trade rumours. So, of course, we've seen a bunch of free agency ones done already. No one really gives a crap about them, to be honest, but we'll have a quick look at them anyway. So, way back at the start of the trade period, we've seen a couple already done. We saw Himmelberg go to the Gold Coast, Battle go to Hawthorn, Perryman go to Collingwood. We saw Tom Campbell, I think this is his 4th club now. Yes, it is. He's played about 30 games. He's basically been on an AFL contract for 10 plus years, playing very little football. What a career. Sitting on the couch most of the time, playing VFL football, getting paid. Well, I mean, his pay packet keeps on going up. Yeah. He wouldn't be getting paid this much if he was just a VFL player, so good on him, I guess. He's at the Demons. Nick Haynes got to Carlton. I think it's a really good pickup. Isaac Cumming went to the Crows. Then we get to a couple of trades. So the first trade of the trade period was Neil Bullen to the Crows. I think it's a really good pickup for Adelaide. We also saw Jack Darling move to North Melbourne. I don't know how this one's going to play out, but I do understand they did need a helper for Nick Larkey.
Yeah.
So I think they could play. I don't agree with him. He's going to kick 40, 50 goals. I'm sorry, bro. I don't see that happening. If Nick Larkey's, he gets there, but I don't think Nick Larkey's sharing many. I'm just going to be honest with you. Anyway, and that's basically most of the trades that were done to this point on players. Jack Graham on a free agency front did get to the West Coast Eagles, and we saw a bunch of trades of draft picks, basically. Good one from Brisbane's front. They've picked a couple of good drafts up to try and, get their points up. I think that will need to be looked at, the point system going forward. And then the huge trade of pick 14 for a future first round pick for Hawthorn next year and a future second, all tied to Carlton. So that could be anything from wherever the fuck Carlton could finish.
Yeah, we never know where Carlton finishes.
Yeah, who the hell knows?
They won't finish in the top 4, so...
Yeah. And then the Demons and the Crows made another trade. Look, I get the point of maybe thinking about it, but why didn't they just involve the Neil Bullen trade? Should have just had that one done already. Yeah, they traded this year's third round for Melbourne. So the Crows traded their third round pick to Melbourne for this year, and Melbourne gave them a third round pick for next year. Awesome. Okay, and then there was a big one that was today. That was early in the morning. The Crows Melbourne one, and the Melbourne went bit hard. They want to go hard for this draft because they don't want to get AFL listed players want to go to them. So they're like, we'll try and get some young kids in because we can't attract any other one who's actually an AFL listed player unless they've played 0 games of footy. Melbourne picked up pick 9 and a future third round from Essendon. I think it's really good to know Melbourne have pick 5 at the moment and pick 9. And Essendon have got 2 second round picks, currently 28 and 40. 2 third round picks, which are currently 46 and 54. A 4th round pick in 65, and then a future first round pick just tied to Melbourne next year. So Essendon are really hoping that everyone is right that Melbourne are going to be plummeting down the ladder.
So they're going to try and predict it like I did this year with Melbourne.
Yeah, so we'll see how that plays out. But basically what Essendon have done is they've tried to trade out a lot of their picks this year because what they are hoping for is this gives them enough points for a first round pick in case there is a bid placed at NGA prospect Isaac Kako on draft night. So he's a small forward.
Yeah, and it's the kind of player they really do desperately need, Essendon. So
yeah, and he looks like he has a lot of spark from what I've heard of him or whatever. So we'll see how that plays out. But I think Essendon, it's really interesting. They've kind of gone off their 7-year. I mean, it feels like every single year Essendon are always involved in these massive trades or free agency pickups that do literally fuck all when they're on the field. I know Jake String has had some up and down moments, but he's never. Career. I mean, let's be honest. Has he really been that good of a recruit? I don't know.
No, I don't think he has.
He's never lived up to.
I don't think he's been good since the 2016 finals.
Yeah, probably just those few years before that.
Yeah. Since then, he's been playing good in his contract year. That's pretty much what he's been doing.
Yeah.
But Dylan Shield, he's had a tough run at it when he's been at Essendon.
Big money recruit, big name recruit as well. I mean, remember there were players, teams like Carlton going after him. He thought he was going to go there. He decided Essendon. Hasn't really worked out. And then you look at the players that last year came over. Jade Gresham, average season at best.
He started well, but then he just...
Same thing about the other player, Ben Mackay. Had a pretty good start to the year. Everyone was singing his praises. End of the year, every single time the ball went near him, every single Essendon fan was like, get it away from him now, please.
Yeah.
And then there's just a bunch of other ones. So, but Essendon are really going after the draft. It looks like not so much this year, a bit this year, with Isaac Kako, but they look like they're going hard for next year as well. Interesting to see if this new plan will help them or fail them. Who the hell knows at this point with Essendon? I think at this point, are they going to win a final next year off going to the draft? So it seems like no.
It seems like they're going. It seems like they're going back a bit,
taking a backward step to then try and take a jump in the giant league.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, do you really want to be the team who continues to lose finals? Not make finals and stuff. Who the hell knows? But let's move into a couple of trade rumours and the trades that we have currently, or players that are still to be traded but are still looking for a new club. So obviously the big one is Dan Houston from Port Adelaide, of course. There's been North Melbourne, Collingwood and Carlton that have been in the fight for him. North Melbourne are best placed on the picks front and probably what Port Adelaide want to deal with, but Dan Houston doesn't want to go to fucking North Melbourne. Let's be honest.
He'd rather stay at Port than go to North.
Yeah, I mean, I think he feels like, look, I rejected Melbourne, which is the worst one I want to go to. But is there any other club will Western Bulldogs or St Kilda want to chime in quickly in case? But really the two main winners here are Collingwood and Carlton. Now, I think there's been a few times the stages throughout this trade period where both of them have been said they are out of the race, I feel like. But now it seems like both of them are somewhat back into it, Carlton and Collingwood. At this stage, it seems like Collingwood are the front runners, but you can't really count out Carlton at the moment. I think at this stage, it is Collingwood at top prospect, Carlton a second, Port Adelaide, if he stays at third, which would be tough. I don't know. We have seen players in the past stay after requesting trades, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but you have to have a good culture to bring the player back and then bring them through. He's still a contracted player at Port Adelaide, of course. And then I think fourth is definitely North Melbourne. I feel like he's staying at Port if he's not going to North.
Yeah.
But what is your thoughts? You're a Port Adelaide fan. What do you think happens in the next couple of days?
I think there could still be a twist in this. I think there could be one more twist that makes him stay at Port.
You think you may stay at Port? That's not you going, please?
No. I think it will be either Collingwood, Port, Carlton, North Melbourne. I think he's more likely to either end up at Collingwood or stay at Port.
So you don't think Carlton want to
No, I think they don't want to give up anything. They just floated the idea of Owies, and then that's kind of fell through. That's kind of fell through, and then they're like, well, Port Adelaide said earlier, late last week, is that we want to get the players we want, and then we'll deal with the other things.
Yeah,
and then we'll deal with the other teams if they want to get rid of if they want our players.
Yeah, we'll talk about the trade rumours in a bit, but that's definitely what Port Adelaide, I think, are definitely looking at. Bailey Smith, obviously, probably the biggest talking point of the trade period, but has probably been the biggest talking point of movement in the past 18 months. Always has been basically linked to Geelong, occasionally Hawthorn and Collingwood, but his heart's been set in Geelong. Obviously, Geelong are playing hardball. Geelong and Bulldogs are locking horns on a hardball. Pick 17 is the pick that Geelong want to give up for him, but the Bulldogs want to pick inside the top 10.
He's not a top 10.
Well, he's not a top 10 based on the fact that he's done an ACL, and the last 2 years he's been pretty poor. And the fact is that the Bulldogs haven't rated him to play in the midfield. Yeah. So you can't sit there and go, he's worth a pick 10, and they're not playing him in the position that he's supposed to play in.
They're not, what was it? A couple of years ago with Geelong when they were so adamant of Jordan Clark. They wouldn't even play him, and they wanted the top 15 pick for him. It's like, not worth it. Yeah. You're not going to play him.
I do think eventually the Bulldogs will back down and just take it, because I know there's obviously the point of like they can go nuclear, the Bulldogs, and say go to the draft. I can't see that happening. I don't think they want to give up nothing.
I don't think they want to give up nothing, and to be honest, you can't take the risk of the draft in the pre-season draft.
I wouldn't think another club would touch him though. I mean, it's so much of a risk. I mean, could you realistically look at Bailey Smith and say, we can get him to play games for us? Like, obviously, if in a perfect world, if he was saying he just doesn't want to play for the Bulldogs, he would play for 17 other clubs, you would have a look at it. But even then, it's a risk.
I think no offense, but I reckon I would. If it was Port, I reckon.
Yeah, but I mean, he's not going to play for you.
Well, if he's going to take that risk of going in the draft, I would.
Well, it's not his decision. It's the Bulldogs. He wants to go to Geelong.
Yeah, well, that's not really his call. Like, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, if that ever happened, and I think like if you're talking about a Victorian club, I reckon Sam Mitchell could go at him, take him at Hawthorn.
Let's bring it up this way though. If you're any other club in the AFL, and I don't know where Geelong's first pick is. Let's say, because Geelong don't pick draftees unless they're like 26 or older. So that's why they'd go Bailey Smith with their first pick. But I'm saying, I can't remember where Geelong have their first pick. Let's say it's in the first 25. I'm pretty sure it'd be around there. Well, it's pick 17, obviously. With their pick 17, 16 other picks are before that. Are you honestly using your first round pick on Bailey Smith? Now, look, you could say yes. Let's say it's Carlton. Maybe that would be an okay option for them. But look at Richmond in their first 4 picks. You wouldn't take him because they're rebuilding, and Bailey Smith would not want to go play for Richmond. And he's not going to go. He won't play for them. I'm telling you right now, that's not going to work. And no, I wouldn't personally. And Sydney, I think, have a pick around the top round. I'd love to have Bailey Smith at the Sydney Swans. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't do it. I think the draft, especially unless you are Geelong, who are going to grab him, who want him, and he's like nominated you, I wouldn't wait. I wouldn't risk it, because it's not just a point of like, oh, he'd be a great player at us. Like, that's dream scenario that could happen. But you look at even players like, and I mean, he's also got a lot of stuff off the field as well. Like he's had past issues with drugs. Pretty sure there was one issue with drugs. I hope I didn't just absolutely just slander him. Allegedly, I'm pretty sure there was a thing when he got caught with a substance once. I'm pretty sure. I don't know. They're all the same. No, but all right. Well, he's definitely had mental health issues in the past. Let's just put it. Let's start there. Think of a player like a Cam McCarthy. Like he didn't even he wanted to leave the Giants. He requested a trade. He didn't go. He didn't play for a whole year for the Giants. So that's the risk you take, and that's the money you take too. And what I've learned as well today is what has to happen is he has to get picked up by another club. They have to match the offer that the Cats are going to give them. Yeah. So the Cats aren't giving him a 1 year deal.
No.
So the Cats are going to, let's say they offer him I don't know, let's say 4 or 5 year deal with a certain amount of money. Probably low because they chuck on the extras in the background and they give him like all the Cotton On sponsorship stuff. It's like in the back end of his contract. It's not really written. But let's say he gets 700,000 or 800,000 for each year for 4 or 5 years. No way in hell is a club going to take a risk with that. Because if they sign him for 1 year, he wants to go again. What a waste of time. He won't obviously he's uncontracted the Bulldogs. They're not going to pick him up. So I just think at the end of the day the Bulldogs will fold. I think that's what's going to happen with Bailey Smith. I can't see that happening. Although, I mean, maybe Port Adelaide will pick him up in a perfect world for you. Tom Barrass. Now, obviously, this was the trade that was the nuclear option because Hawthorn traded away their pick 14. Ooh, this will get done.
It'll still get done.
Yeah, it'll just be a weird bunch of like future first round picks that go to West Coast will trade away.
Well, it would be interesting. I
mean, if I'm Hawthorn, I actually think it's probably a good play for them because, I mean, West Coast will give up Barrass and Hawthorn, if they give up a future first, if everything goes the way that Hawthorn are going, that's going to be what? Let's say Hawthorn finish top 4 or 6. I mean, that's going to be pick 12.
Yeah, that's what I think. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's going to be around the same anyway. So, in Hawthorn, I just think that's fine what Hawthorn did. They've played their hand. They're like, West Coast aren't dealing with us properly. They're not really taking you seriously. Let's fuck you around. We'll fuck you around. We'll see what happens. And then you'll start to pay attention. And eventually, when this trade gets done, the domino effect will happen with Baker and stuff. So I think this trade has to happen. I think this won't have to deal with Baker as much anymore. But I think a future first and maybe a future second and a bunch of back end picks will probably get this deal done. Yeah. I think that Hawthorn, at the end of the day, they will want him. He is contracted at West Coast, but again, he's been... after the West Coast Eagles kind of shafted him with his contract, basically had a handshake agreement that he'd get a good deal next year, and then they were like, oh, actually, no. So I feel like he's not going back to West Coast. He left in pretty good style, but that's not going to happen. He'll get to Hawthorn at the end of the day. It'll just be a couple of picks. Now, Liam Baker, like I mentioned, this has been an interesting one because he obviously nominated the West Coast Eagles after Andrew McWalter was announced as the head coach. He now, obviously, his other teammate and Jack Graham got to the club. But that pick 14 was like the deal that was going to happen, that Hawthorn would get that one to West Coast and then West Coast would trade that to Richmond for Baker. Obviously, that can't happen anymore, so they're going to have to do this a different way. Obviously, there is Fremantle sitting in the background who will sit there and maybe say yes. Will say yes, we'll take you if he decides that maybe he wants to go to Fremantle instead. I think that actually is a bit of a possibility on the fact that he wants to get back to WA. He doesn't want to be at Richmond anymore. Yeah. He is uncontracted, so he could potentially go through to the draft. That's not going to happen. If it gets to the final day, Fremantle will be loving the point if this gets to the last day. Gets to the end of the last day. They'll be sitting there just waiting for a call from Liam Baker's manager saying, him sweating on the phone. Because if it gets to, 2 hours before deadline time and West Coast haven't done enough, there could be a potential call saying, we will go to you. Yeah. Because Fremantle already have the deal ready. They say pick 10, pick 11 and pick 18 for Shea Bolton and Baker. I think that gets it done.
Yeah, I think it does. I think Liam Baker would be getting pretty nervous right about now on a Monday afternoon. It's like, is this deal going to get done? And
the Barrass one will get done for Hawthorn. Yeah. The Baker one, I think it's still in West Coast favour. It's not 50-50. But Fremantle, all they're doing right now is just arms crossed saying, we're here if you need you.
Yeah.
We're here if you need you.
Yeah,
You need
we're
us.
only one phone call away.
Our arms are open. That's what they're doing right now. So I think Fremantle are in the perfect spot. Now, speaking of Fremantle, obviously, then we get to Shea Bolton. So currently, Fremantle are offering pick 10 and pick 18. I think that's more than fucking fair.
That's more than enough.
Shea, bro, Richmond, he's not coming back to you.
But I think, do you think that that's why they're waiting? Because they're like, well, we can get it done now, but if Baker wants to wait and see if West Coast can't wait for it, then they might think, oh, we'll just chuck in 11 and we'll take
I think Richmond are probably waiting as well. They're like, well, if Liam Baker's not gone yet, if West Coast aren't willing to deal with us, if he really wants to get back to WA,
you want to take Freo? You want to go to Freo?
Because they would take 3 picks for them too.
Yeah.
I mean, look, the potential of both of them is, Shea Bolton's an All-Australian and Liam Baker would be up there. I think he can potentially be All-Australian.
The leadership role that they say that
he could have been a future Richmond captain. So,
yeah,
I think that's more than fair enough. But yeah, I think Richmond, the Shea Bolton deal will get done. I think Liam Baker is a big part of it. I think that if it gets to those 2 hours before deadline day and Liam Baker, if that is the scenario that happens and they go, look, I want to go to Fremantle, we're like, great, we haven't even done the deal with Shea Bolton yet. We'll chuck that in. We take your pick 11, day done.
Yeah.
But I think that's what's happening. I don't think there is much of a... I think if it gets to a point where Liam Baker has got to West Coast, they'll take pick 10 and 18 for Shea Bolton.
Like you said, I think it's just the domino effect that will happen eventually. It's just for waiting for that big deal to happen. Yeah,
usually by today or tomorrow in the trade period, usually that's when the domino finally drops for a big one and then everything just falls forward.
Yeah.
So I think that's this one's going to be a big one. Jack Lukosius. Now, we'll talk about this one with a big trade rumour coming up, but he's getting to Port. That's pretty much obvious. I think that, Gold Coast are asking for a first-round pick. No, not going to happen. I'm sorry. He's not shown the potential yet to get there. Maybe a very late first-round pick, but again, the potential's there, but they're not taking him back. Mac Andrews is basically their future. If they want to play him up forward or down back, he's that swingman role now. They've obviously given him a huge contract. Jack Lukosius isn't coming back.
No.
So he'll get to Port Adelaide. I think that is a good pick for Port, though. Caleb Daniel. Now their first, they did make a trade. They did make a first attempt at North Melbourne. They went for pick 25 and a later pick to the Dogs, which they rejected. I think this one's probably actually not going to happen now because he still hasn't officially requested a trade to North Melbourne.
Yeah.
And the Bulldogs are already going to be losing Jack McRae. That one I think gets done eventually. I don't think they can afford to lose. It's not that I don't think they can afford to do it, but I don't think they'll want to lose two after they're already losing Bailey Smith as well.
Yeah.
Because thinking about it, what was it? 3 years ago, we were saying that the Bulldogs have too many midfielders.
Yeah.
And now they also lost Josh Dunkley a couple of years ago, and all of them are starting to domino out. And, they've still got a couple, obviously, Liberatore, Trelaw, Bontempelli, but then it kind of falls off pretty quickly. So...
Well, yeah, and obviously Bevo doesn't want to use Riley Sanders anymore. He just wants to keep him in the VFL for his career.
No, they're just training him up to go to Tassie. So
yeah,
that's what
yeah.
I mean, he's doing a good charitable thing.
So they might want to keep him. I think he can be still in that best 23. 22 and not use him as a sub, but
I think he is definitely.
I just don't know why the Bulldogs is being so tough on it. It's like they played McRae and Daniel for most of the year as the sub, either or of those players. It's like...
Yeah, I think that they're playing hardball, and I think that the McRae one will get done. I just don't think that they'll let Caleb Daniel go. I feel like there's a point maybe now that they'll take him back.
Yeah.
Do you think he'll get done, or do you think he'll stay at Bulldogs?
I think he will. He will leave. I think he will. I think there's a role at North Melbourne for him to do. He can play pretty much wing, half back.
Yeah, I wouldn't chuck him as a half forward. I feel like he's done that role.
I think
it's
that's a dead position, and you don't really want to put him there. Like he's a beautiful kick. He's still an elite kick, and that's what I think they can use.
Yeah. So next one's Daniel Rioli. Obviously wants to go to the Gold Coast. The Gold Coast have offered Richmond pick 6, which seems very high.
I think.
I mean, look, he obviously got an All-Australian nomination this year, so that's a big talking point. But Dan Houston's not getting offered that, and he's a much better player. No offense to Dan Rioli.
And he's actually got the resume a bit with a couple of All-Australian jackets and stuff with Dan Houston. So
yeah, I feel like I think Richmond will eventually accept this.
I think it's more that because he just won the BNF for him. It's like, he just won the BNF. They don't want to. put the price up higher. It's like, well, yes, but he's not as good as some other players that are in this trade period up for grabs.
Yeah, I think that this will get done. They're saying both the Tigers are hugely prominent over the remaining 3 days, with a decision on the Suns' pick 13 expected to come before Rioli's trade progresses. That's obviously the trade that the Gold Coast pick 13 is obviously a big domino effect, potentially getting Dan Houston out of Port Adelaide.
Yeah.
Also, North Melbourne have tried to inquire about that pick 13. So we'll see how that one plays out. That's a big draft pick as well. Hopefully there's a Chris Judd in there for someone there. Jake Stringer obviously now wants to go play for the GWS Giants. Interesting talking point about Jake Stringer, because is he in their best 23 if he goes... He's not walking into their best 22 of the Giants next year. I don't think he is.
No, I don't think he is. Like, I think they've got enough forwards in that team.
I mean, can you play him and Toby Green in the same team? Like, I mean, I'm not saying that... I don't even think they're that much different players. I think they're the small key forward, and I think that Toby Green's the best at it. I mean, obviously this year he was a bit down, but he's definitely better than Jake Stringer.
Do you think there was any, I know that the reporting last week on radio was that they were just too scared after the 2 losses in the finals that they're like, we need a Stringer type. It's like, no. I think another year into the Daniels type, Toby Green having another year as a captain pre-season.
Yeah, Bedford, I think, learning his role as a tagger. Yeah. He basically was I wouldn't say he's a makeshift tagger, but he was chucked into that role, a couple of months through the year. Yeah. So, I mean, learning that role again. Yeah, and then you got those younger players like Callahan. I mean, Callahan was one of the better players for the Giants this year, and they're talking about him as a, potential Bontempelli type in the next couple of years. So,
I think that,
I mean, if you pick him up, but he's not walking into their best team, so I don't think they have to offer a lot.
I don't think, if it's me, I'm only offering a late third, really. Like, I don't think, they don't necessarily need a Stringer. They don't need that. They've got the players around in that forward line with a Riccardi type. Don't you want to put your time into more of a Darcy Jones than a Stringer?
I don't think he would take over him, but yeah, I do agree. But you chuck a younger guy in. Yeah. But, I mean, who's he taken over? He's got Hogan, who's obviously the number one. Cadman, who had a really good end of season. Riccardi, who's there and was behind Lockie Keefe, but I feel like Lockie Keefe's going to go full back to that back then. So he's basically battling Lockie Keefe and Jake Riccardi for that role.
And you're not going to do it. I think that if any deal's not going to be done, it's going to be that one.
Well, I mean, who is he going to go to? Because he can't go back to Essendon.
Well, I wouldn't be picking him up. That's the one player out of anybody who's out in that trade period is going. I wouldn't be touching him.
The Giants are keen to use picks in their 50s. So they've got 53 or 56. Yeah. But Essendon aren't keen. They want more.
Yeah, well, of course they do. I think it's 56 if it's me.
Well, 53 or 56, I don't think it really makes a difference. But I think if I'm the Giants, I'm like, that's what we're offering. If you don't want to go, if you're not going to take that, he's walking back into your club first day of preseason. Yeah. And I think Essendon will eventually take that deal because Essendon don't want him. They don't want him back. No, I don't think that's going to happen. I think eventually it will get done because I think Essendon don't want him back. I think that's the point. I think if I was the Giants, they'd be like, yeah, we'll take 53. Ooh, that's got taken away. We'll offer 68 or something. Whatever the fuck's back there. Sorry, we'll offer you 75. And they'll be like, fine, just take him off our list, please. Yeah. Next is James Peeling. I'm very surprised this one hasn't been done yet.
Yeah, it seems like the Crows are going really hard for it. And the Crows they've already done most of their deals. So I guess it might be some other stuff that needs to be done.
Yeah. So so it says here that James Peeling, future second round pick as well as pick 46 from the Crows for Peeling. It will get done. This one gets done.
I reckon that will be one of the first ones that gets done. Early.
It may even be done tomorrow. Yeah. We'll be releasing this Wednesday morning, so if that's some of these ones will probably be done tomorrow, Tuesday.
I think that sort of deal is not going to make the domino effect happen.
No,
because they're not. None of these teams, neither the Crows or the Giants, are going to be they're not heavy in this trade period. They've already done most of their deals. They already know what they want. Yeah, and the Crows.
I think they've both done very well to just. Well, I mean, the Giants. I mean, they've lost a lot of players, so they're still looking for lesser lights to try and keep on moving on. But I mean, I think that they've probably done the deals that they needed to get done straight away. Yeah. Jack McRae. Talks have commenced between St Kilda and the Western Bulldogs on what a deal would look like. I mean, the Dogs have insisted that they won't be letting the 30-year-old leave for a later pick. I just think...
So just, like you said, a 30-year-old. It's like, I don't know why they're holding on so tight for a player that that have done not a lot this year. The Bevo's not using him.
Yeah, I think they took big talk and then waiting
Yeah.
for the Saints to eventually crack. But if I'm the Saints, I'm just saying, look, if he doesn't really want to come that bad, we've got picks 7 and 8 in the draft.
Yeah.
We'll go pick up a good player. And they're even talking to the Saints that they could do after the draft, after the trade period, maybe going for West Coast pick 3 and giving them 7 and 8, which I mean wouldn't be a bad idea.
Well,
So-
you never know with the Saints because they always fuck it up when they get a high draft pick.
Yeah, that's true. I think it will get done. That one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Luke Parker. I don't know. This is an interesting one because the Swans want more than pick 62 from North Melbourne, but Sydney want pick 25. 44 is the other pick that North Melbourne have.
I think it will be 44. I think that
Sydney just have to let him go.
Yeah, I think
I want him to stay at the Swans, but he's been such a great servant of it. I think it was Dermot Brereton who said it. Who said, "Look, don't fight over picks with this guy. If he wants to go for his last year of his career, he's not going to play much more than next year. I don't think. I think a lot of it's to do with family and maybe potential coaching role sometime down the track in Victoria. I just say let it go.
I think 40.
I think 65 is a bit low, but I mean, what are we going to do with pick 44?
Yeah.
I mean, I think we can only get pick 25 for him. I'm sorry, not going to happen. If we get pick 44 bonus, if 60 whatever it is, we'd probably be like 68 by the time fucking every single pick gets done. I just think let it go. I mean, I know you want to go for a high pick. I think this will get done. I mean, this is going to happen. That's pretty much good. Joe Richards, we'll talk about that one in a second, but I mean, he gets to Port Adelaide. John Noble, we'll talk about in a second as well. Clayton Oliver.
Can we just get over it?
I mean, look, it's not going to happen because of the fact that Melbourne...
They don't want to.
They can't... They don't... Well, I don't know if they don't want to, but I mean, at this point, I've gone from stop bullying Clayton Oliver and the Melbourne Demons to what the fuck is going on? Don't put him on the trade table if you're going to say to him publicly and privately, we want to keep you, and then behind the scenes, you fucked him over. Fuck you, Melbourne, for doing that. But it's not going to happen because Geelong don't have enough. They're already working with Bailey Smith, which is their top priority, let's be honest. Clayton Oliver's not getting there.
Yeah.
And Melbourne have said Melbourne, the reports are that Melbourne want a first round pick in the draft, and some of his contract to be taken. Geelong can't do that.
No.
So he's not going anywhere. Which for his sake, hopefully he can get some of his form back, and then who knows what happens next year because he's still contracted, so he could be traded away. A couple of GWS players, O'Halloran and Dirksen. GWS have basically refused to let go of either of them. O'Halloran will stay. Dirksen, I'm very surprised that the Giants are so adamant on this. Now, I think that they will eventually let him go, but they've been so adamant on him because he's made a request to go to Melbourne. Tall guy, a bit of a swingman, key defender, key forward. He's not getting in the Giants team.
No.
I think they're maybe waiting to see if Jake Stringer's deal does get done, and maybe that will get him over to Melbourne. Maybe that's the idea. But he's not getting a game. I'm sorry. I mean, he's not going to get a game over Cadman. Obviously, no Hogan. Riccardi's in front of him. So he's got Keith as another option and then potentially Jake Stringer. So unless the Giants have a huge injury problem next year, he's not getting a game. So I think that one's going to get done. I know the Giants want to be adamant on it, but that gets done. Harry Sharp did make a trade request to Melbourne from Brisbane. Obviously, Brisbane probably get this one done, I say, because I think that they want to just get as many draft picks as possible. Harry Sharp's not really going to get a game. I think that Melbourne will eventually trade a pick around. They got picks in the 40s. Nothing that one gets. I feel like that one's a 50-50, just on the fact that it's not a big deal, Harry Sharp. But I think that one eventually Melbourne will want that one done because they just need players. And yeah, I think that one gets done. Devon Robertson, he told Brisbane that he wants to explore his options. West Coast obviously made a big play for him last year. There's been a little bit of talk that maybe Collingwood would have a look at him. What a fucking deal that would be. Playing in the 2023 Grand Final against them, then moving to play for Collingwood. What an interesting choice that would be. Yeah, I think he probably does get away.
I think that West Coast, once they get all these deals done, that's the one thing that might not make it happen. That if West Coast are the only team in WA looking at him, he might, because he is a WA boy, so that might be the reason he accidentally falls back in Brisbane's hands.
Well, he is still contracted for 2025, so I think that maybe he just probably he stays at Brisbane or he goes to West Coast. I see him going to Collingwood. Matt Owies, such an intriguing one, this one, because we've been on the roller coaster of he's like one of the best small forwards in the comp to no one bloody wants him to potentially now the Gold Coast and West Coast want to have a look at him to no one wants him.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. There must be a backwards behind the scenes story about this because it feels like on paper, even though he's not a much talked about player, 30 plus goals in the last 2 seasons as a small forward in a forward line with Mackay and Curnow. It seems like, why is no one picking this guy up? Like, why is no one really interested? Now, there obviously was a report that he was asking for $700,000 to $800,000 a year. His manager was pretty quick to come out the next morning and say that was completely false.
Yeah.
But there must be something here because on paper it seems, why hasn't he gone? Why has no one looked at him? Because I mean, if I'm the Swans right now on paper, I'm like, why don't the Swans look at him? Because Swans kind of need that extra small forward, that role small forward player. Because obviously Papley brings the spark in that, and I'm not saying always wouldn't, but he obviously does bring another string to a forward line. So, I mean, I don't see him walking back into Carlton. I don't know. It just seems so weird.
Well, they're adamant that he's out the door. So
yeah. I mean, you got West Coast and the Gold Coast at the moment that are likely options here. He could also fall into a delisted free agency, which is maybe what other clubs are waiting for.
Yeah.
I think he's a good pick for the Gold Coast. I think he's a good pick for West Coast as well. But I just think, I don't know, it's just, to me, it looks like West Coast feels like a bad choice. I don't know why. It just feels like, they're kind of in a rebuilding phase right now. Moving there as a small forward, it'd be really tough to kick goals. I don't know. I think if anything, he goes to the Gold Coast in the trade period. If he falls out into delisted free agency, I think it will be a bit of everyone. I think everyone will go have a big look at him. But if it goes in the trade period, I think Gold Coast will get him.
Yeah.
So there's obviously another one, Swans draftee from a couple of years ago, Jacob Constanti. This is the guy I think who broke Callum Mills' arm in the Mad Monday a couple of years ago. It does seem that Essendon are looking at him, but it's very interesting. They want to just wait and see because he's non-contracted. Sydney are waiting to see if they want to, sign him again. Obviously, Sydney he made it through their first round of delistings, so Essendon are just waiting to see if they're going to sign him or not. It's very interesting that Essendon are looking at this guy. I mean, I don't know. A lot of Essendon fans aren't happy about it. They feel like that is this guy really going to get us to a finals win or push us up? St Kilda have also met with him as well. So, I don't know. That just seems like a one we'll have to wait and see. Jack Hayes, this is one that you were very happy about. Well, not happy about, but you were like this seems like a very good option.
I was very intrigued by this one. I think because he's looking at Collingwood. He had a medical late last week.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting play for Collingwood.
Yeah, I think he's not a young guy, but he's young in games. He feels like he would be in the best 26, 27 of St Kilda, but he feels like he would be in their best 22 if he was playing. Like, it's consistently. I think that with obviously Mason Cox getting to that age now, Darcy Cameron is a sole ruck, obviously.
Yeah.
Collingwood are obviously very much lacking in their key forward options. Jack Hayes seems like to fill the role.
I think he can play, because he played that sort of role when he first started at St Kilda, the forward ruck type, and I think that's what they can do. And he's a nice kick for goal, but it'd just be interesting to see what Collingwood would offer for him, really.
Well, there is a chance as well that he could fall through to delisted free agency.
I think that they will sign him, though, if St Kilda...
I feel like he's another player. Not so much on the Matt Owie side, but I feel like if he fell through to delisted free agency, there would be a couple of other clubs looking at saying, hey, we'll offer you a bit. So him and obviously Adam Tomlinson as well, Collingwood have monitored as well as like a potential defensive pillar, I guess, with like, they've obviously got Frampton and Darcy Moore, but they want that extra one to obviously let Moore play off. But so I think that could be an interesting one. I don't mind that idea for Tomlinson as well. That's basically all the rest of the trade stuff of like the known players that people are looking at. But let's move to a couple of trade rumours because today obviously the trade rumour mill has been spinning quite a lot. So first of all, we get to the progress on the Suns and Daniel Rioli. Gold Coast are getting closer to landing the priority. Daniel Rioli, of course. The Suns are set to part ways with pick 6 and 23 to the Tigers. If I'm Richmond, I am laughing.
Yes.
That is a good deal.
They could have a really good hand for the draft this year, the Tigers.
Seems like they're getting even more now. Yeah. I mean, they get this many picks. The deal will also include later selections that will aid the Suns in trying to get matching their academy prospect in Leo Lombard. They also want to get some picks as well for next year. You were telling me before we started about Zeke Hewland as well.
Yeah.
So they'll definitely be banking them up. Just have to wait and see how that plays out. Richmond have also had more talks. It's with the trio on with Liam Baker remaining in. He's still intent on going to the West Coast. Sorry, Shea Bolton keen obviously to go to Fremantle, and Carlton have continued to push for the Eagles' number 3 pick to look ways to slide back down the order with Matt Always on the radar of the West Coast Eagles. I think that Carlton, I mean, obviously Matt Always wouldn't be a pick 3,
no,
but I think that it's interesting that Carlton would probably trade their pick 12 and 14 to try and get down that order.
Yeah.
So North Melbourne, like we said, try and make that play with pick 25. That obviously did not work out. Bailey Smith and Jack McRae have both officially requested the trades. The Bulldogs are reluctant to let all 3 of them go, which include Caleb Daniel. So they're saying they're going to need a lot more than that. The Swans have been eyeing pick 25 for Luke Parker. If the Swans get pick 25 for Luke Parker, I will piss my pants. There is no fucking way the Swans will get pick 25 for Luke Parker. Great idea, but obviously North Melbourne have tabled pick 62. That wasn't going to happen. North Melbourne have pick 44. Maybe that's the way it goes. I just still think Sydney should probably just let it go at this point. The Demons have made a bid for Sharp. Melbourne has put forward pick 49 for the contracted winger in Harry Sharp. I think that's probably about right.
Yeah, I think it's about right.
Yeah, that's probably one that will probably get done. Harry Sharp obviously has requested a trade to Melbourne. It looks like GWS have asked for a future second round pick for James Peatling. We'll have to wait and see on that front. Draft swaps obviously throughout the whole day today. Looks like who's this? Collingwood listed forward Liam McMahon has been considered as a rookie spot for Carlton next year. I don't really care. Hawthorn have also looked at out of contract Denver, Graven, Barras to be moving. Carlton is an option. You were saying that's a pretty good idea. I'm probably like, I don't really rate Denver, Granger, Barras too much, if I'm being honest.
It was a very high pick in the draft when he was picked up 3 years ago.
Yeah. So, and this is the big one, obviously, that I was trying to kind of like tease throughout the whole, but I mean, I'm sure everyone's seen it by now. Houston move is getting closer. 3-club trade that would get Dan Houston a Collingwood player on the Monday. So 3-club move, which would see the Pies land Houston, Port Adelaide land Jack Lukosius, Joe Richards, and out of the blue, like Stephen Bradbury, Rory Atkins is going to Port Adelaide. Don't know where the hell that came from. And the Suns would get John Noble and two 2025 first round picks. That'd be good for the Suns. Obviously, we're talking about Zeke Hewland as well.
Yeah.
So, does that deal get done though? So Port Adelaide would land 3 players. Collingwood would get their prized recruit in Dan Houston, and the Gold Coast would get
Noble
and some first round picks for next year's draft. Overall, it seems like a pretty decent deal for all parties. It just seems like Port Adelaide are getting a lot of players, which obviously on paper looks like, wow, they're winning this deal. But at the end of the day, they're losing Dan Houston, which are better than all 3 of the players that they're getting. I don't know.
Well, if it lands like that, who do you think wins the draft? Who wins that period? Who wins that trade?
In the short term, Collingwood. In the long term, the Gold Coast.
I was going to say Gold Coast either way.
Yeah, okay.
I think the Gold Coast would win that either way. I think that getting Zeke Hewland next year, I think all reports say that he's a...
Well, they say he's way better than his brother. No offense to his brother.
Yeah, but they rate him as good as Dacos, as Nick Dacos.
Oh,
that's what they're saying. That's what they're saying. But you know, reports all that.
Yeah, I think Jack Watts was pretty high.
Yeah, well, yeah. But I think it is very underrated the John Noble pick up for him.
I agree, but I do think that the Gold Coast in the long term would win that trade. I think in the short term the Pies would win the trade. And I don't think Port Adelaide lose it, but I think they pick up 2 very good recruits. Why is Rory Atkins suddenly in the deal? Well, they just chucked him on as a pot.
From reports today, they're saying that he actually approached Gold Coast saying that I kind of want to leave, that I've only got a year left, that if you want to use me as trade bait, you can. I think that's what the reports have been saying.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think that that's a weird decision. I mean,
It's not a player that I want. I don't want him in Port Adelaide.
I mean, you're getting him for nothing. I mean,
but yeah, that's the thing, is they're getting him for nothing. He has played some AFL football.
He is a wing role that Port Adelaide could potentially use.
He's a good depth player.
You've got Jace Burgoyne, who's probably going to be playing half-back now. Obviously, played so well in the finals, and Dan Houston inevitably looks like if this deal goes ahead, Dan Houston goes. So Burgoyne would move back. I feel like it's an interesting one because do you think Port Adelaide, if Jace Burgoyne didn't play so well in that semi-final, do you think Dan Houston's getting held onto even more harder than Port Adelaide have already done?
You can probably consider that, yeah, maybe. Hindsight, you think that if he didn't have such a good final series, they'd be probably asking for an early first round or top 10 pick for it.
Yeah. So, look, it seems like such a big deal, like that sort of thing to get done. I'm probably thinking about it more and talking about it, that it will probably be the trade that gets done inevitably, because it seems like all parties get what they want, and they get all the players that they want, and Port Adelaide get Rory Atkins on top, like the Tim Tams on top, to give them an extra push. I don't know, but yeah, to me in the short term, the the Pies win it because they get a 2-time All Australian halfback, which they do need. I feel like, because I feel that they've got John Noble is going, but I do think they're kind of lacking in that role. Like Maynard and Quaynor aren't really that sort of player. So I do think that Dan Houston does definitely give them something else. And, Collingwood are definitely going for the now, like their premiership. So even though the 2 picks for the Gold Coast, 2 future first rounders, they're probably not going to be in the top 10, I wouldn't say. I mean, knock on wood for Port Adelaide.
You think both of them would at least finish in the top
finals.
Yeah, make finals. You'd think.
You'd hope. if you're both of them. But still, if you're getting 2 first round picks plus their own next year, I feel like that's good enough.
Yeah.
So I think maybe all parties considered that could be a deal done. They're saying it's getting ever closer. I don't know if it's going to get done on the Tuesday or on deadline day. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I just think that that's probably when they get done. That's really all the news on that sort of front. Not really other trades have been talked about at this stage. But before we move into a bit of world sport, I wanted to take a look at 7 players that are out of contract next year. They're under the age of 30. And these players, I don't know if all 7 will be going, but they are a great list of players that could be going into, I don't know if they're all into, I think they're all into free agency bar 1. So the 2 De Koning brothers are on the list. Tom De Koning will get signed to Carlton. I don't think he's going anywhere. Sam De Koning's obviously an interesting one. It seems so unlikely that Geelong will lose a player. It just seems so unlikely. But, there is a connection with his brother there. It's an hour down the road, bro. If you want to see your brother, go see him in the week, during the week. Like, I'm being honest with you. You both can meet halfway. But
I think if you're Geelong, you're signing him for the long contract. You're signing him for 6 or 7 years that everyone's thinking.
You're definitely putting the extras on his contract.
Yeah.
I don't think he works in Cotton On very often. I don't think he's that sort of model, but I'm still giving him a long contract.
I think that,
if I'm giving anyone.
You're looking at it, it's like if you can't afford to lose him. I think this year you've had to play him in the ruck.
I was very surprised he wasn't in that prelim.
Yes, but I'm relying on him more in the ruck than I am Reece Stanley.
Oh, I don't think that's a very big call for many people. I'm going to be honest with you.
You're playing more him as your second ruck behind Blitzars than you are playing him off out of the team in the VFL next year.
Yeah. But next one's Andrew Brayshaw. Obviously a big talking point that St Kilda are going to go hard for him next year. But a lot of other talking points as well is that he's not interested one bit and he's going to be ready to sign Fremantle once he gets that deal that he wants. Good leadership by him to show that he wants to stay at Fremantle as well. I don't see him leaving.
No, I actually don't. I think that the more,
I think it feels like Fremantle are now, especially if they get the Bolton deal done, they're building the list to potentially towards the first premiership.
I think they're looking at top 4 next year. If they can get the deals done,
keep the players on the track, they could definitely do it. And it was heartbreaking how they missed out this year. They shouldn't have, but yeah. Davies Uniacke, it felt like for a while this year that he was going to go just before North Melbourne, just when they were going really bad. But once North Melbourne picked up their form, he said he wanted to stay at North Melbourne. Obviously, he still didn't sign those, so there's still the free agency.
Well, do you think he goes?
I think if the offer's there, I feel like he will. Especially if North Melbourne don't improve.
I actually don't think he will. I think what will happen is that he'll get close to next year and They'll start well, and he'll sign, and then they'll go to shit.
Very good planning there from Clarko, I believe.
Yeah.
Sam Darcy is a big one. He won't be a free agent because he'll be too young. I don't see him going.
Nah.
Connection with
I think
his
the
dad.
the legacy of his dad, I don't think he'll leave.
Even though he's going to politics now. Fucking, I don't know how that's going to go. Who the fuck wants to see Will
I
Darcy
actually
as a
think he'll
politician?
be good at politics. I think
I mean, he's not the greatest commentator.
No, he doesn't show a lot of emotion when he does the commentary.
And then the two big ones going into next year. Chad Warner, Marcus Bontempelli.
Chad Warner? No.
Chad Warner, I fucking hope not, but
no,
every
I
single
think,
moment, it just feels like,
I
especially...
think he's getting closer. I think he's getting closer. I think it'll be interesting how Freo do next year. If that will be a way that he decides he wants to go to Freo, but I think he will.
I kind of do as well, but not many players leave Sydney very often. Like, I mean, obviously there's been a couple of times throughout this last 20 years where there's a couple of players that like leave because of Buddy Franklin mainly, because of how much money he was getting, so players had to fall to the side. But Chad Warner, like, not many young players leave the Swans. So that's probably the only thing I'm banking on, but just... Like, my heart says he's going to stay, but everything else is telling me there's not much hope.
The thing is that the Swans have signed a lot of players for long-term deals in the last 2 or 3 years. I think if anyone's going to get pushed out, maybe not because of those reasons, he will be pushed out. That they're like, we can't afford it to keep him, unless they fine for 10 years, to be honest. And they'd be able to juggle the money like that, but that's the only way I can see them keeping him.
Yeah, I just think that Fremantle will have enough there. They'll get him. I mean, he was a West Coast fan as a kid. Not that that means a lot, but I think he wants a premiership. Yeah. So I think that's why a lot of people are saying that he stayed on this year to go on again. It just seems like a very interesting one. Then Marcus Bontempelli. Now, everything tells me no. He seems like a Bulldog for life, but he hasn't signed. And
the money would be there for him.
The best player in the competition,
not to win a Brownlow.
To not win a Brownlow,
That's
really.
That's played in the competition more than 5 years, I'd say.
I mean, if Praddy Cripps didn't get 155 votes in the Brownlow this year, seems like he would have been a bit closer. It just seems like it's interesting. You never really see a player like this stay out of contract,
getting close to the last year of his contract. Yeah,
you don't really see it.
To be honest, if Andrew Brayshaw signs, St Kilda will come fucking hard for him.
Well, you saw how much they were offering Jacob Wiedering throughout the year. He obviously re-signed today, but if they're offering like Jacob Wiedering that much, they can offer more for Bontempelli.
They've been looking at like Hugh McGuggach signed, Wiedering, Dave Giniak, Merritt.
Merritt.
They've got the money in the bank. If I'm the Bulldogs, I'm concerned if he's not signed before the season starts next year. I'd be really concerned.
Yeah, I just can't see it.
I can't see it either. But if he's not signed by round 1 next year, I'd be really concerned.
I would be. Yeah, I feel like he would be a little bit frustrated though as well because. You know, he won a premiership very early on in his career. Now he's getting to a point now where they've been around the mark, but have just never really been able to reach it again. Yeah. They obviously did in 2021. They got to the end, but it just seems like there'd be a bit of frustration around him. Like, he knows he's good enough to win premierships. He knows he's had a group around him to win it, but the Bulldogs just haven't been able to do it. And the thing is, if he gets through to free agency, the Bulldogs, they'll get some compensation back. Like, even though if you get pick 1, that's not covering Bontempelli.
No, it's not. It really isn't. That's the sad thing is that.
And I feel like by the point now they're not in compensation terms. After this year of how much talking point there's been, they're not going to get pick 1 for him. So they have to sign him. This is probably, even though Chad Warner is probably the most important because of his age, even because he's a few years younger than Bontempelli. This is obviously the big one, especially if it gets to next year. If it gets to April, May next year, and Bontempelli hasn't signed, there'll be some alarms going off.
It'll be the alarms going off in every press conference. Bevo will be asked it. Every single player will be.
We already know he hates the media. Yeah, so do we. But
we'll
also
see how much he can cope cope with it next year.
Yeah, because I feel like if he gets annoyed by Tom Morris too much, because Tom Morris is the one who's going to be asking those questions. It's going to be like, hey, Bevo, how do you feel about Bontempelli not signing yet? I feel like one of the mics at the front would just get sort of straight at his head, which I mean would make for some excellent a couple of press conferences. But you know, probably not good for his thinning hairline. But let's move on, and we'll talk about a little bit of world sport before we end today's episode. So not really much on the soccer front this week because everyone's doing international stuff. But my team, the Falcons, on the NFL front, won, and they're Super Bowl bound at this rate.
They're playoffs bound, actually.
Well, they won against...
Are they top of NFC South or not?
They could be. Let's have a quick look. So, looking at the divisions quickly, because my phone's not going to show me, is it? Yes, it is. Okay, so looking at it right now, the Falcons are... hold up with me. Yes, they are on top. Yeah, they won the last 3 games. They've won all 3 games in their division. The Bucks are equal with them, but obviously 1-1, so they're not that good. The Saints have lost their last 4 games after winning their first 2 of the season.
Yeah, when they smashed every team and they could actually score.
Yeah, the Falcons are now in the NFC are ranked 2, 4, 6. So that's pretty good. So they would currently be sitting in the playoff spot. That's weird. So the Bucks, because of the conference, the Bucks are actually in front of them, but in the divisions they're below them.
I thought they took the divisions over the conference.
I don't know. I don't know how it works. Sorry, I'm not a big NFL. I'm quite a big NFL guy, but like I don't know exactly how I do know how the table works to an extent, but I'm still trying to get my head around it. There's now only 2 teams that are undefeated: the Vikings on the NFC side and the Chiefs on the AFC side. Oh God, can we just get rid of the Chiefs? It's
the
boring.
thing is that it's Did you see the report? Well, the fan survey that said that who's the most hated team? It always used to be the Cowboys, and now it's the Chiefs.
Yeah, it's because it's like it's so fucking boring.
Yeah.
Who cares? And Taylor Swift stuff hasn't helped it either.
Oh no! I watched the game. What was it, last week or when they played on Monday night?
Yeah.
The amount because the fucking commentary box is just below her booth.
Oh, there's definitely a point in the contract of like media in America doing the NFL that they have to pan to Taylor Swift at least 3 times a quarter in a Chiefs game. At least.
Even though when Travis Kelce's playing like shit, because the first month.
How's Taylor Swift feeling about Travis Kelce's poor game?
It's like fucking hell. He's playing like shit. Oh well, they must be having problems.
Yeah, true. The relationship's on the rocks. Travis Kelce's had made a fumble in this game.
Yeah,
fucking hell. It's all over for them. Interesting enough though, the Texans are actually right up the top, so they're actually doing pretty well at the moment. I'm actually happy to see that because they were down the bottom for a couple of years there. Patriots. What a drop-off. Obviously, right? Belichick's gone. Brady obviously retired. They're right down at the bottom of the AFC. But looking at it, though, looking at the form guide right now, do they have a little form guide? No, they don't, do they? That would be helpful. But anyway. So Vikings sitting on top. The Detroit Lions are in second in the NFC. The Bears are in third. It's very interesting to see, like, in the NFL sort of stuff. You know, other than like, the Chiefs, who are like up the top all the time. It's very interesting to see like teams that are like down the bottom one season ago, like the Bears, like they were the bottom of the NFC, and now suddenly in the 3rd spot. So it's good to see like, I don't know, if anyone really follows like American sport, or at least the NFL, I don't really follow much else of American sport, but it is very interesting to see. Then the Cowboys got absolutely smashed on the week and during the day. I think they got smashed by like 40 points or something.
Lions, yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. Apparently, it's not going to show me, is it? Or else I'm just blind.
Bit more.
There it is. Yeah, smash 47-9. Oh, my mate would be fucking fuming after that sort of performance. But yeah, looking at the results throughout today, Jaguars lost 16 to 35 over the Bears. Bucks smashed the Saints 51-27. Packers beat the Cardinals 34-13. The Colts just beat the Titans 20-17. The Eagles, after a weird start to the season, won against the Browns 20-16. The Texans smashed the Patriots 41-21. The Commanders lost to the Ravens 23-30. The Chargers beat the Broncos 23-16. The Steelers beat the Raiders 32-13. The mighty Falcons beat the cellar dwellers in the Panthers 38-20. I was telling you before though, the Falcons the last few seasons, when they've been very poor, they don't beat teams by very much. So an 18-point win's like fucking a massacre. Like I said, the Lions beat the Cowboys 47-9, and the Bengals beat the Giants 17-7. A couple of games going on tomorrow. One game going on tomorrow, which is the Bills up against the Jets. And then on Friday we did have a game. The 49ers beat the Seahawks. So, yeah, looking at it right now, my Falcons are in 6th spot in the NFC. Are you actually going to pick a team this year? Because you did have the Rams for a while, but then you realise they're down the bottom and shit now.
Well, who would you say is the front runner so far for the Super Bowl?
Well, it's a bit early, but I think it was the Vikings last year who had a really good run at it and then just faltered later in the season. So, Detroit did pretty well last season. They're doing pretty well this season. I wouldn't mind seeing them. I mean, at the moment, it's a bit early, but I mean, the Chiefs are obviously up there. Ravens obviously hit their straps when the end of the season comes. The playoffs are a bit.
To be honest, I think at the moment, if you call them the Super Bowl matchup now, I think it's the Lions and Baltimore.
You never like to. The thing is, obviously as Australia, we never really like to pick the favourites out, like the Chiefs.
Oh yeah, but the thing is,
like the Chiefs are basically at this point like the Hawthorn, like in the that middle 2015 era, they're not going to be able to do it again. They're not going to be able to do it again. But all right, you're saying the Ravens so you're calling this October the 14th. Lions v Ravens in the Super Bowl. All right, we'll write that down. We'll keep it as a tally. I'm thinking the Falcons, and it doesn't really matter because they're winning the Super Bowl. So I mean,
we're choke again. Like I think it was in 16, was it?
Yeah, it was. But that's okay. It doesn't matter because we're gonna win this one, their first ever championship. It's gonna be amazing. Anyway, guys, that's pretty much all we have for this episode of the Boundary Riders podcast, episode 85. I'm pretty sure. Didn't really think to check, but it's okay because it's been absolutely amazing. Trade period has, it's starting to kick off now, it feels like. Obviously, this is a big trade breakdown episode, so hopefully you guys did enjoy it. We will maybe do a live stream on Wednesday night about the end of the trade period. We'll have to wait and see on that front, see if I'll be here or whatever. But if I am, I'll be able to. We'll just have to wait and see, basically. You won't be here, will you? So, no, fucking devastating. We'll see how we go. If I am, we'll do that. If not, I'll probably do a little video or whatever, just covering all the trades and that. We will be doing next week's episode of the podcast. We'll be doing gradings of all the trade period, every single team, see what their gradings are. But that's basically all we got for this episode. So if you did enjoy this one, make sure to leave us a like and subscribe over on YouTube. 2,100 subscribers now. Amazing, guys. Really appreciate your guys' support. And, of course, on Spotify, make sure to leave us 5 stars and follow so you're notified on the podcast and the reviews when they come back next season every single week. But thank you again, guys, for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll catch you all next week.
See you later, guys.